written and verbal testimony again in a host of different ways. And so once we pass our recommendation towards them, it'll become available for you guys to take a look at the final version of it. You can write your testimony and start getting ready to lobby other council members to either change it or you love it or something like that. One thing I would ask tonight is that you respect our process and our opportunity as the Planning Commission to talk amongst ourselves about these issues. So please keep jeers or cheers or any of those things to at least a minimum. This is our time to deliberate. We've heard all the verbal testimony and we've taken in stacks of written testimony and gone through it. So this is our opportunity to work with each other. We haven't had the opportunity to talk with each other at all about these issues, as that this is our first time to understand where each of us are on these matters and need that opportunity to talk it through and see if we can come to some conclusions. Number 4, okay, technically I just want to reiterate what we're here to do. We are, as the Planning Commission, working on the land use aspect of regulating short-term rentals. We're here to create some code that doesn't currently exist. Our current code doesn't have definitions of short-term rental use. It doesn't have vacation home rentals or terms like that. So we are going to try to define those terms, define that use, decide where that use gets to occur, and then what additional circumstances are attached to that use. That's the land use stuff that we get to do. The licensing stuff, so to speak, will be at the council level, where some additional details will come out about how the licensure will work and how the length of licensure and things of that nature. So I just want to be clear that that's the stuff we're working on. That being said, I want to hear a little bit from the other planning commissioners who have been looking through these vast amounts of testimony and heard everything. So I'm going to ask a question to all of you, and I'm going to give you guys an open-ended opportunity to sort of, give us where you're at with this and any concerns or questions you have. So I would say to all of you, Planning Commission members, you've read all the written testimony, you've heard the verbal testimony, you've read the staff report and the draft code amendments, and have likely done research on your own. I would like to ask each of you to talk about your goals for the process and let the other commission members know if there are particular approaches or ideas that you would like to make sure we deliberate on, whether they're in the draft or otherwise. I would like each of you to give an opening statement if you're so inclined. Welcome. Commissioner Blanco, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Echoing in part what Cindy said, for me, the deliberations are fundamentally about the availability of housing, and in concert with that, the future of the economy. For this commission, that involves goals 2, 9, and 10. The economic opportunity analysis incorporated into the plan in 2011, and the housing study and the available land study incorporated by the council into the plan last year. 5 to 6%, something like that, maybe more, of the urban dwelling housing stock in Hood River is in vacation home rentals. These are dwelling units that therefore are not available for people who live and work in the community. And so they're at a variance, particularly to goal 10. Under state law, we have an obligation to provide for housing for people who live and work here. One of the things I've learned through all of the testimony is that these properties are a subset of a global industry, the vacation rental industry. And I have to tell, this is just one of the pieces of testimony that I just absolutely loved. Here's the line. Who in their right mind would pass regulations depriving me of this opportunity to meet people from all around the world? So I say, bring on the short-term rentals and broaden my horizons. My wife and I have 2 daughters and 4 grandkids, and the tone of this is kind of like something they would say to me, hey, look, dude, we know you're old, but you got to get with it. And Hood River has seen this transition to this booming global vacation economy, and maybe I should get with it. I've learned in the testimony, other people are getting with it. Wayfair is buying these things up. So is BlackRock. So is American Home. Other institutional investors and hedge funds. Any one of us can buy mutual funds in vacation properties today, globally, internationally, or just domestically if we choose. So the city's undergone some renaissance or some new beginning that's gotten us to where we are with 6% of our housing stock. And so maybe I should be like my kids and just be glad and rejoice in it. At the same time, in testimony we've heard, some of which are primarily highlighted by Cindy in the February 22nd staff report, there are some other issues. We all get the fact that there isn't adequate housing for people who work here. I haven't seen any testimony that doesn't concur with that fact. We've heard from small, medium, large companies, but the two pieces of testimony for me that grip me are from Providence and from the schools. And the Providence testimony essentially says what's at stake here if we can't find housing for employees is the breadth of healthcare services that the community has. And Goldman's testimony is a little more complicated. The school district has the same problem in terms of housing for staff, but he's got another problem, and that is enrollment. The hospital and the school board could get into the housing business. Other communities have done that. But for the school, if they see a decline in enrollment, they lose financing. And that impacts a generation of kids that are in school today and future generations of kids. And in recent years, the district has just kind of maintained a level attendance. But as more and more younger families with school-age kids are forced to live outside of Hood River, if that school census goes down, the school loses money. And in spite of what my kids think of me, I guess I'm old-fashioned enough to think that quality health care and education are integral kind of infrastructure to the ongoing health of the community. So for me, it's about availability of housing for people who live and work here, as well as about the economy. So, Nate, to be first, you ask, what are my dispositions? My predispositions at this point in time are that the city come up with some scheme, 5 years, I don't care what it is. After some period of time, vacation rentals are in commercial zones and not in residential zones. These are businesses that are operating in residences, and there is no testimony that I've seen from anybody other than one woman who testified last summer in this written testimony that says, well, this is really improving the quality of life in our residential neighborhoods. So that would be my first bounce. My second one is for later, Kathy, when we talk about hosted home shares. I have some questions about definitions and where we're headed with that, but that's more of a technical discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBlanco. Commissioner Stark.
All right, Nate. Nice words, Vic. As both a professional planner and a planning commissioner in the state of Oregon, I am a firm believer in the importance and effectiveness of our statewide planning goals. During my time as a grad student at a university outside of Boston, we were always hearing about Oregon as a national model for controlling sprawl and encouraging certain kinds of development in the right places while discouraging it where it doesn't belong. With without state land use planning and resource protection programs such as strict zoning, to restrict development and protect resources, we would have strip malls and condos developed here at the top of Mount Defiance. Instead, we have incredible natural areas protected, our state agriculture and forest lands given high priority, and the focus on urbanization where it belongs in our cities. These statewide planning goals form the basis of our city's comprehensive plan, which was developed and is maintained through a public input process, taking into account as wide a voice of our citizenry as we are able. Goal 1, citizen involvement, is clearly demonstrated in this process through the hundreds of pages of testimony and responses to these proposals we received, which have been carefully considered. It is our duty as a part of the governing process to provide for the greatest good, the greatest number in the long run. It is my conclusion using the statewide planning goals as interpreted in our comp plan as a guiding document, and after reviewing these responses, speaking with citizens, and conducting my own research, that the ideal path for Hood River is to solidify residential zones as residential, permit full-time permanent residents of the city to occasionally rent out their homes on a short-term basis, and maintain vacation homes in commercial zones. Looking at this citizen input we received, it seems we can categorize those opposed to regulating short-term rentals fairly effectively. Some people were against it because they don't like the government telling people what to do. Well, after decades of zoning, it's shown it's actually a very effective way to help protect the community as a whole. So, others were against it because they own a home or are a permanent resident here and want to rent it out when they leave for the weekend.